AFC Championship odds now available on the lovely FanDuel Sportsbook, live right here on this Monday on the early line on SportsGrid. Of course, we start at the top. The two-time defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. And Donnie, it might sound crazy to say, but at a plus 350 number right now, if you bet the Chiefs, you're feeling pretty good based on recent trends. They have played in the AFC Championship games each of the past 6 years. All 6 years that Patrick Mahomes has been the starting quarterback, they have won the AFC title game, cashing that ticket to win an AFC Championship game 4 of the previous 6 NFL seasons. So again, kind of crazy to bet a plus 350 price right now and expect it to come to fruition. But that has been the story the last 6 years, at least 4 of the last 6 around the NFL.
Yeah, but when you're taking a look at the Chiefs here, they have Patrick Mahomes. So again, I should have just listened to that little, buzzer in my head pounding away at me going like, hey, Donnie, it doesn't matter what the other team has. They don't have Patrick Mahomes. So why not just use that throughout the entire landscape of the 2024 season where you see a plus 350 price? And you're right, Ben, you should be crazy at this point right now to bet the Kansas City Chiefs. But when it's all said and done, you'll be sitting here in late December going like, it's a foregone conclusion. The Chiefs will be the number 1 overall seed, or even if they're not anymore, it doesn't matter because they have Mahomes on the win. Anywhere they go, they'll get the other team's worst coaching performance. They'll have their best coaching performance. They'll get all of the breaks on special teams. You'll get none of the breaks if you bet against them, and you just take Patrick Mahomes. So if you want to keep that theory, I can't argue with you anymore. But a plus 350 price and a plus 250 price, get out of town. It's the NFL. There's way too much variance and way too much injuries that can knock you off.
There's probably going to be a point throughout the regular season, both for the 49ers and the Chiefs, the two favorites in the respective conference title odds. You are going to get a longer number that would provide a bigger payday. They could grow shorter by the time we reach the postseason. For both of those two teams, we expect to be a part of the conversation. But at some point throughout the NFL regular season, or even in the playoffs, where the Chiefs were 7-1 at certain points to win the AFC Championship, those numbers are going to be there. But it truly has been the Chiefs versus the field. 4 of the last 6 AFC Championships in Kansas City. Their 2 losses, one to Tom Brady in Mahomes' first year as a starting quarterback in overtime, one against the Cincinnati Bengals also in overtime. Those are the 2 losses where they failed to cash that ticket of the conference championship price to win the AFC. So now we look beyond Kansas City. Baltimore plus 460, second best number, backed by over $1. The Bills plus 650. We expect a healthy Joe Burrow will reinvigorate the Cincinnati Bengals, a 7-1 price, and the Dolphins round out the top 5 at 11-1. We'll look at the value outside of that in just a moment. But Donnie, same thing we just discussed for the Lions and the Cowboys. Questions about their overall postseason pedigree. Are those same questions there for Baltimore in Buffalo? The Ravens have failed to win an AFC championship with Lamar Jackson. He is 2-4 now in his playoff career. Of course, the Buffalo Bills have been bounced in the division around each of the past 3 seasons. They have not appeared in a Super Bowl or won an AFC championship in any of their 4 previous playoff trips. So do you have questions about the proven track record for both the Flock and the Bills?
Yes, because that's what they've shown us here. And last year, they could have vanquished it. Both of them could have done that yesterday. You might have even had me say, you know what? Take a look at the Buffalo Bills at home against the Kansas City Chiefs. They win that game by a field goal and then move on and take on the Baltimore Ravens, who the Baltimore Ravens then would beat the Buffalo Bills and move on to the Super Bowl. We'd be having this conversation by going, yeah, Buffalo showed in the playoffs they can handle the Kansas City Chiefs. And, the Baltimore Ravens showed in the playoffs they can actually win big football games and get to the Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. But it blew up right in our faces in both instances, so that's why we're questioning it. The one thing I do know next year, Baltimore is going to be an unbelievably talented, great regular season team as long as Lamar Jackson stays healthy. Then we'll question it in the playoffs. But I am starting to buy a little bit more here on the Buffalo Bills because you're trying to extrapolate what you saw last year and move it forward, right? Everything went right for the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, heck, they even got Mark Andrews back for the playoff run, which is something we weren't even expecting was going to happen, and that would just be a plus, and it didn't work. But the one thing with the Buffalo Bills are, Josh Allen's coming back. Let's just say he's healthy. Looks like you found yourself a ground game. Can Stephon Diggs step up and be that number one wide receiver we've accustomed him to being over the past couple years when he wasn't down the stretch? Let's add a quality number two wide receiver. You have a lot of talented tight ends, but the one thing that we can look forward to is Sean McDermott's defense next year. If they're not the walking wounded in a triage unit out there, they're going to be competitive and should have an extra boost in the playoffs. I'm not ready to give up when the Buffalo Bills, like it seems like, Ben, I'm ready to give up on the Baltimore Ravens.
Listen, it's going to be a very hard slate for every team in the AFC, including Kansas City. By the way, Baltimore naming Zach Orr, a former All-Pro linebacker in the NFL, only 31 years old, the new defensive coordinator to replace Mike Macdonald, who now, of course, is the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. I would look at the Bengals. There is a proven track record. If Joe Burrow is healthy, a 7-1 price is always intriguing. But as Donnie and I have said multiple times, every quarterback in the AFC is 29 years old or younger, at least for those top 5, 6, 7 prices. Mahomes, Jackson, Allen, Burrow, Tagovailoa, Stroud, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. The list goes on and on. So there are questions about the Dolphins and their overall outlook. The Houston Texans, a ton of optimism, rightfully so, entering year number 2 under Stroud and head coach D'Amico Ryans. What does Jim Harbaugh do in Los Angeles? Always optimism and expectation for the Bolts. Can the Chargers finally match that with their performances on the field? And the team that was our focus in terms of the conference title odds, Super Bowl odds at this point last year, the New York Jets under Aaron Rodgers, who will be 40 years old at the start of 2024, coming off the torn Achilles at the very beginning of 2023. Beyond those prices, Donnie, that are in 3 digits, the Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, Bengals, where do you think the best bet is?
The one thing I do know is not the Jets at a 16-1 price. They just feel like a powder keg here, where if they start out 1-3 on the season, it's going to absolutely explode, even though they are an intriguing option. Because if you could say, hey, let's flash back 5 years, that's the Aaron Rodgers I get. Sure, who's not going to think they can be competitive with a chance at a one-off in the playoffs where they would be able to advance? But that's not where I'm going to go. If you take a look, though, what makes some sense, you're looking for the team that's on the rise up. And I do think it's the Houston Texans. You take a look at that 14-1 price. This was a team that was just trying to win here and won big games at the end of the season, and also being a team that competed for a divisional title outside of just a few people probably thought, wasn't one of them, that they could actually get to the playoffs by winning the division and possibly winning a football game. I didn't see that coming, and yet they were maybe a year or two ahead of the curve. So I'm looking forward to them improving and adding there to their payroll, which means maybe another legitimate wide receiver, maybe another running back in the room, another defender here. They can do some damage. But that one team that you do take a look at here and say, look, things didn't go according to plan here this past season. And I'm looking at the Houston Texans in the same division, the divisional opponent, as in the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were so disheartening to me heading down the stretch where I thought they would run away with maybe even a legitimate chance at one point in the season, Ben, to possibly the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. And they crashed and burned, almost similar to what we saw for the Philadelphia Eagles. I look for them to retool with Doug Peterson here and maybe be a player next year. It's not to say that they can win the AFC outright, but the price point of 17-1 for the Jaguars, that's something, Ben, I'm looking forward to biting on.
Starting tomorrow, I am pretty sure, until Tuesday, March 5th, that is the franchise tag window. Josh Allen, not the quarterback in Buffalo, the edge rusher in Duval County for the Jags, will be one to follow for how Jacksonville retains him. The defense needed to step up for the Jaguars a season ago. It did not necessarily do that. The AFC South, an afterthought entering 2023, the Jags, and then who else was going to win maybe 6 or 7 games. Now maybe one of the more exciting divisions in the entire conference with Jacksonville, Houston. What is Anthony Richardson going to do in a full season in the NFL? The Titans are probably going to struggle, but Will Levis has some hope and optimism there at the quarterback position. The AFC North, I still believe, is going to be a very difficult division to win with a healthy Joe Burrow. Of course, the Baltimore Ravens, the Cleveland Browns. What are they going to do with Deshaun Watson? That remains to be seen. And what do the Steelers do? Arthur Smith, the new offensive coordinator. What does the quarterback situation look like in the Steel City? All to say, Donnie, it is not going to be easy to win any division in the AFC or a conference championship. And although I still think the Chiefs are going to win the AFC West, probably for a 9th consecutive season, and maybe the optimism will be just a little bit early on the Chargers. One thing we know about Jim Harbaugh, at whatever level he is coached at, FCS, FBS, National Football League, he is a program builder. I expect the Chargers to look better on the field this year than they did in any of the 3 years under Brandon Staley.
No, and I do as well. And it just starts about, a coach that's going to have you in the football game and say, well, what do you mean? Every coach gets it. No. I'm talking about when you have to make those decisions where the coaching staff makes them and the team look over and goes, you know what? I trust this play. Let's get after it. Have some fun. I think this 4th and 1 call is the right move here. That's all they need. How many times did the Chargers lose in the past 2 years under Brandon Staley because we were just questioning decisions? We won't question those decisions under Harbaugh, and that should be a good thing. But the question matters here. Is Harbaugh going to be able to tangle there with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid? And if he can, boy, we're going to look at an awesome, awesome rivalry over the next 5 years, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely so. And that's also a part of it. These numbers you see right here, right now, barring injuries, trades, acquisitions, whatever it might be, at least based on the quarterback position, these could be the prices next offseason, and the next one after that, and the next one after that, given how young every quarterback is in the AFC and the route they have to go, still through Arrowhead and those Kansas City Chiefs led by Patrick Mahomes.